All rise.
We'll call the meeting to order. And before we move on with the meeting, I'd ask our CAO to do an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'd like to welcome to the team Arthur Smith, who joins us as treasurer. Arthur has many years of experience with town of Bancroft and the town of Deep River, and will be working closely with our team. And I also want to thank Erin Broom for all her work as acting treasurer for those many months during the transition. So welcome to Arthur, and thank you to Erin.
Okay. That's for the calling of the roll, please.
Thank you. Mayor Eady?
Present.
Reeve Eamon?
Present.
Councillor Koulis?
Present.
Councillor Evans?
Present.
Councillor Hines?
Present.
Councillor Jamieson?
Present.
And Councillor Sidney?
Present.
We do have a quorum, Mayor Eady.
Thank you. A declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Okay, hearing none. Okay, well, we'll move right along then to the first motion. First motion being that CAO Tremblay's report dated July the 4th, 2022 concerning council remuneration review be received. The mover, please. Councillor Sidney, second by Reeve Eamon. Turned over to CAO Tremblay to give the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report recommends, there's three recommendations here. Approve proceeding with the review of council remuneration for the next term of council, so that's 2022 to 2026, as mandated by Section 283 of the Municipal Act. 2, that the review be undertaken internally, so myself and the treasurer, with the following municipal comparators, and there's 10 noted here, and that the treasurer be directed to prepare policy to help guide future reviews in keeping with the requirements of the Municipal Act. So Section 283 speaks to council remuneration, and it does mandate a review at a meeting of council at least once in the 4-year term. The last substantive review occurred in 2016, and there were some minor adjustments in 2019 for cost of living, but also to deal with the changes to the federal tax law. But there really hasn't been a fulsome review of council remuneration since 2016. In terms of alternatives, council could decide to not deal with the matter, but I don't think that's in the spirit of the Municipal Act that requires you to have a look this term. You can decide not to make changes now or later when we report back, or you could hire a third-party review or create a committee to do this work. But due to the timing in terms of the organizational changes and to meet the spirit of the Act, we feel that staff can do this review with these comparators over the summer and report back at the August meeting. So it's a good practice to do this work in about the 3rd year of the mandate so that it's resolved and settled for the next term. So the people running for municipal office know what they're going to be paid for the valuable work they need to do. So in terms of establishing the municipal comparators, we looked at 3 instances where we looked at other municipalities. So in 2016, they looked at a series of municipalities. They're listed there. The recent Fournier report on the organizational review looked at 3 municipalities, Crown Place, Miss Falls, and Arnprior. And the recent 2019 staff remuneration review looked at a number of municipalities as well. So what we did, and you'll see that table, we looked at the first series at the top. Those would be those municipalities that were included in one of those 3 reviews. And then we looked at other municipalities below, so the our immediate neighbors, because there's always a desire to compare ourselves, but the scope of service population might not be adequate in terms of a real good comparator of the level of service that the town's providing and council's important role in guiding that decision-making and that important policy work. So what we looked at, 6 criteria, whether it was a lower tier or a single tier municipality. Population, oftentimes we get stuck on population, but it's not always a good indicator of the scope of services or the scope of assets of a municipality. The number of full-time staff, total expenses, so total budget, The value of our capital assets, again, you need assets to deliver services, so it's a good indication of the scope of service. And then again, the size of council. So based on that information, we're recommending 10. And so the last two columns of the table, inclusion criteria, would be those 6 items which that we feel is generally a match. Again, it's a bit of an art as much of a science. And the exclusion criteria. So as an example, if we look at the town of Carleton Place, they're larger than us at 12,000, but overall they're a really good comparator. And the best comparator is the town of Arnprior, where we're similar in size, full-time count, total expenses, capital assets, and the size of council. So the important part is to pull the data from the 10 and see where we compare with regard to council remuneration with those 10 municipalities. And that information will come back to council at the August meeting to see if any adjustments are required, or whether we're generally in the mean, the average, or the median compared to those 10 other municipalities. So what we're doing here is just telling you these reviews should be done with like municipalities, so that we're getting the data right in terms of who our true comparators are. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Okay, questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. The Renfrew Town Council approve proceedings with a review of council remuneration for the next term, 2022 to 2026, as mandated by Section 283 of the Municipal Act 2001. The review be undertaken internally with the following municipal comparators: Town of Arnprior, Town of Carleton Place, Town of Gananoque, Town of Greater Napanee, Municipality of Mississippi Mills, Township of North Glengarry, Municipality of North Grenville, Town of Perth, Town of Petawawa, Town of Smith Falls. And further, that the treasurer be directed to prepare a policy to help guide future reviews, keeping with requirements of Municipal Act 2001. Mover, please. Councillor Jamieson, second by Councillor Hines. Questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. The CAO Trombley report dated July the 12th, 2022, concerning temporary program support be received. Mover, please. Councillor Evans, second by Councillor Revimo. Turn it over to CAO Trombley for this report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, we do a lot of great programs in the town of Renfrew, and that's thanks to our dedicated staff. We currently have a temporary vacancy over the summer months, which is pretty critical to offering program support within the department, and a pretty critical role. One of the objectives, Objective 19, and the CAO's goals and objectives is to seek, develop, and inform council on opportunities to work with local municipalities in the county regarding a variety of opportunities for collaboration. And reaching out to the township in McNabb-Braeside, they do have a part-time program support person that is available for additional hours. They could, for a 5-week period, help out the department and do special projects and run programs so that those programs can exist. So it's a good example of working with neighbors, not always to help them. There'll be a report from Director Aslan a little later, but in this case to get some support. They have this person because they received a grant and they're not working full-time, and the person would be a good fit to help us out for a 5-week period, 2 days a week. So the cost is kind of negligible for that 5-week term, about $1,800, and plus employer benefits and mileage. And there's an agreement there to just ensure that both sides, both parties to this collaboration understand what we expect of each other. So we're hoping to proceed fairly quickly with getting this additional support during this vacancy.
Okay, again, is there any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? That's carried, thank you. The bylaw 61-2022 being the bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Township McNabb-Braeside for the provision of temporary program support services for the town of Renfrew be read a first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Mover, please. Councillor Evans, second by Councillor Sidney. Got any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Will be carried. Thank you. Okay, the bylaw 61-2022 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement with the Township McNabb Braeside for the provision of temporary program support services for the town of Renfrew be read a third time and be passed. Mover, please. Councillor Sidney, second by Revimo. Again, any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. The Director Hill's report dated July the 12th, 2022 concerning ice resurfacer at Mattaway Activity Centre be received. Mover, please. Councillor Sidney, seconded by Councillor Hines. Turn over to Director Hill for the report.
Just like to comment that as part of the 2022 capital budget, the ice resurfacer was identified as a replacement item. The 2022 ice resurfacer will replace the 2014 ice resurfacer that we currently utilize at Mattaway Activity Centre. During the time of capital budget presentation, we were looking at receiving a $23,000 trade-in value from the current ice resurfacer, and as well there is a reserve account of $20,800 in reserve. We do collect and put $5 per hour that we utilize the ice into a equipment replacement reserve to help offset the cost at replacement time. I will note that ice resurfacers have a life expectancy, and I say life expectancy, the best rate of return is that of 8 years or 5,000 hours, and our 2014 being traded in 2022. So I did obtain 2 quotations from the leading manufacturers in ice resurfacers, both from Olympia and Zamboni. And we do, I am recommending the low bid from Olympia to purchase a new Millennium H ice resurfacer front dump. Total cost, inclusive of non-refundable HST, is $59,010.62.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Hines.
Just a clarification, you said it's $5 an hour or $2?
No, I spoke in error. It's $2 per hour that we're putting away for every hour booked.
Of any ice resource?
All ice booked.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else? Revimo.
Thank you. I'm assuming trading in the 214 versus the 1998 because there's a better trade-in value for the 14 and the 1998 is not worth as much?
That's correct. We actually looked at the trade-in value for the 1998 2 years ago when we looked at trading. They were offering, I believe, $2,000. So we've maintained that piece of equipment to resurface and to flood our skating oval. So I just felt the $23,000 that we had budgeted to trade in. The manufacturer actually provided us with $26,000 on trade-in and a $3,000 loyalty credit to keep with Olympia. $29,000 is just a little too heavy to have in the garage for a skating oval, so that's why we're recommending the trade-in.
Anything else? Okay, hearing nothing. All in favor? It's carried. Okay, next more. The council authorizes staff to purchase a new Olympia Millennium H ice resurfacer for the Mattaway Activity Centre from Reservice Corporation in the amount of $86,990, less trade-in of the 2014 Olympia Millennium Ice Surfacer of $26,000, and customer loyalty of $3,000, having a net cost of $57,990 plus HST. Mover, please. Reid Bemo, seconded by Councillor Hines. Any further questions? Councillor Hines.
Sorry, I just really wanted to make a comment that that's really great that we can reduce the price down by getting the trade-in, so I think that's a great way to go, and certainly it's much less than we budgeted for, so that's awesome.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? That'll be carried, thank you. The Director Hill's report dated July the 8th concerning McDougall Mill Museum roof replacement be received. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Sidney. Turn over to Director Hill for this report.
The tender was released, and we were successful in having one company bid the project. I just wanted to note to council that when we released the advertisement for the project, we tried or made an attempt to cover off both the roof replacement and the window and door replacement. It was never our intent to tender the project collectively, so we maintained and held that we would tender two separate projects, which we have. We did have 4 other businesses that expressed interest in both, quoting if it were a combined construction project. But I know that it was the wishes of the rec committee to move the roof replacement forward as quickly as possible. So we did, close the tender. We did open the tenders on the morning after the closing and prepare the staff report for council's consideration. The contractor that provided the bid has supplied all supporting documents requested in the tender project or tender proposal. The cost is considerably higher than what we had budgeted, and the budget number that we had carried was that of the number that we awarded this project in 2020 at. It is the exact same work that's being completed. The unfortunate part is that it's about $26,000 higher in 2022 work than in 2020. So unfortunately, the cost has increased. Should we want to proceed with this work, we would have to move forward with this. If council so wished that we tendered the project collectively, we could do that as well, because I do have 4 contractors that are waiting to bid the window and door replacement for the McDougall Mill Museum. But I know, as directed by the rec committee, I am recommending to move forward with this contractor. And if council so wishes to change my direction, that's fine as well. So there is financial comments of how it will be paid for, because it is cost over what we had budgeted. I believe, based on the recommendations that the contractor has received from even the members of the rec committee, I feel they'll do a quality job and do good work for the town of Renfrew, and that therefore I am recommending to move forward with them.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? It's carried, thank you. The council authorized staff to award the McDougall Mill Museum roof replacement to We Got It Covered Roofing in the amount of $70,553 plus HST. And that council approved funding, the funding overage by using $12,152 from the facilities reserve, and the balance $14,642.73 be funded through the asset management AMP2 reserve. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Reid Bemo. Again, any questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. That the minutes of the Development and Works Committee held, that the minutes of the Development and Works Committee held June 21st be adopted as printed. Mover, please. Councillor Koulis, seconded by Councillor Sidney. Turn it over to Councillor Koulis for the report.
Thank you, Your Worship. This was the meeting we held on the 21st of June electronically. It has been approved by committee, by the way, even though it says at the top of the sheet it hasn't been as of today. We did go over our building report for the month of May. Did acknowledge that development fees were to rise on July 1st, so we did expect a surge near the end of June in applications. The St. Thomas Catholic School has submitted their site plan application, and the department is currently reviewing that plan. We went over road salt summary for the last winter season, and it was, although the number of events increased, usage of salt or applications, the amount we actually applied was proportionate to most other years. We've been very careful with the applying of salt, just as a balance with the environmental impacts that it causes. Residential road speed limits and noise disturbances have been an ongoing issue for this council in town. I believe one of my esteemed colleagues is to address that later during this meeting in the form of a notice of motion. We did again discuss this situation, and it doesn't just apply to one area of town, but to many areas concerning noise, speed, use of ATVs, and that sort of thing on our roads, pathways, and trails. Public consultation and feedback are part of the process, and although we do know we have a master transportation plan in the works as we speak, the results of that would not be available until the end of next year. With that in mind, there are some things we need to deal with more quickly than that, and we're going to expedite some of these concerns within the next month or two. We have had a meeting with the local commander of the provincial police in Renfrew to discuss our plans moving forward, and as we do make some adjustments, we will bring them to council for approval, of course, and move from there. But we can assure the public we are on it in a big way. We need traffic calming measures to be put in place very soon. Maloney Road culvert, a budgeted item from this year's budget of $300,000, is about to be done. We are most concerned with the dollar value because of rising cost of construction. It may not be as little as 300, unfortunately, but we will deal with it and bring it back to council as needed. We did go over some of our capital projects, the low lift pump replacement at the Boncha River that brings water into the water filtration system, a tunnel roof that is in need of replacement and repairs at the wastewater treatment plant was also discussed. And then at, I don't know what time because it's not here, but I lost internet connection, so I was off the meeting, and Mayor Eadie continued, and there was really not very much more discussed after that. It says here it was adjourned. So that's my report.
Thank you very much. there was nothing left to discuss. You went off at the right time.
There you go. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Revimo.
Attended the public meetings, and I'm wondering, is it the intention to have a couple more on the transportation master plan? I think once people start to see or hear, that there was a meeting and it was very well run, very well organized, and lots of good discussion. But I'm thinking that might end up prompting other people to be curious about it. So I'm wondering if if there is going to be more prior to the end of next year.
I think
Anything else?
that would be something that Director Aslan may be able to address.
Yes, sorry, Director Austin.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Yes, the master transportation plan will include other public information centers. I think the first one was to engage the various community groups and residents and what have you to build like kind of a long list of items to consider. Certainly a big part of the process is doing the environmental assessment part of the master transportation plan, which is a very public engaging process. So yes, there will be more, and we'll try to advertise those well in advance.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Hines.
Your Worship, I just want to say thank you very much for the summary to the Development and Works Department in regard to capital budget and what was in there. Great summary to kind of just remind you what's on the go and what's being done.
Thank you. Revimo.
Thank you. 9.2 Maloney Road culvert. Wondering if we're sizing it for future climate change first, and then secondly, if we size it for a future climate change, will it fit the criteria for it to be uploaded to the upper tier of government because they have culvert sizes which they maintain?
So yes, the design will accommodate the flows that are anticipated. I think now with climate change, the designs are approximately 15% larger. As far as your other question, it will not be 3 meters in diameter, which is the constraint to upload it to the county. And it's a very, very deep culvert, and it's in very poor condition, so it's going to be very difficult to replace. But it's a good question.
Thank you. Anything else? Hearing nothing. All in favor?
Sorry, Your Worship. 9.4, just curious about the lift pump. What is the age of it, and then also the age of the tunnel roof? And are these expected timelines for these two pieces of equipment?
Yeah, so the water treatment plant, the pump, the low lift pump is probably over 25 years old. And it's at a state where the motor is pretty much gone, and it's the motor technology and the mounting types and the casings have changed enough that it requires a pump replacement. So it's provided a good service life. The tunnel roof is more of a membrane over top of the concrete tunnelway that's created underneath the building, and that was constructed in 2009. So the coating itself is endured. It's probably hasn't had a 20-year life at this point, but it does need replacement to make sure the tunnel doesn't suffer any structural damage.
Yeah. Any other questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. That the minutes of the Waste Management Committee held June 6th and July 7th be adopted as printed. Mover, please. Revimo, second by Councillor Evans. Turn over to Revimo for the report.
Thank you. We met electronically on June the 6th. All members were present. I'll just take you to page 2, which is essentially we've asked for more information from McNabb Braeside with regards to their memo of understanding and their waste treatment facility that they're proposing. Number 7, we had a conversation about large item pickup, and we don't currently provide that service. However, we did ask staff to get us a report back with regards to free landfill days or annual passes to bring in large materials. And then 7.2, this is sort of, it isn't important because it's covered off in a future report later on in our package. 8.1, our landfill report, we're down approximately 30 tons from 2021, and it's the sludge material. It's there's not as much coming into the landfill. Household hazardous waste, you can see 2,754 liters of waste oil has been removed, and that is what I can tell you at this point with that report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none. All in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. Okay. The Director Aston's report dated July the 4th.
Sorry, Your Worship, I didn't cover July 7th.
Oh, you want to do July 7th? I thought you were doing both at the same time.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, go.
July 7th, we met electronically. It was a very quick meeting because we had to get a recommendation to you, which you'll see in the report. And so if you go very quickly to item number 7, or 8.1, it's the blue box transition update, and that'll come into the report later on. Our key timelines is that we had to have something to you by so that we could respond by July the 15th to the province about moving up the acceptance of of continuing to take on blue box collection. Of concern for us was our 219 ICI, which is industrial, commercial, and institutional generators, and so we made a recommendation to you. In the food cycler program, at 8.2, you'll see we have 56 people that have indicated an interest, and still advertising for more, but we expect it'll be up, the program will be in place by the end of August. Reported to you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Is there any questions on that meeting? We've all voted in favor of it, so that's carried. Okay, the Director Aston's report dated July the 4th concerning Transfer Payment Agreement Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICIP, Greenstream, TPA be received. Mover, please. Councillor Coolidge, seconded by Councillor Evans. Turn it over to Director Aston for the report.
Thank you, Mayor Eadie and Council. This is related to the ICIP Greenstream application that we made for the water main replacement project on Argyle Street, Lockheil, and a portion of Opiongo and a portion of Hall Avenue. So the application itself was for an eligible cost of water main replacement of $5 million. Of which 40% would come from the federal government. That's $2 million approximately. Ontario would be 33.3% at $1.67 million, with the town's portion at 26.67 being 1.33. So for 1.33 million of town funds, we get to advance a $5 million water main replacement project. The CAO has comments. I'll let CAO Tremblay speak to the objectives, if you'd like.
If you notice, we're bringing up the objectives when we can, but they're important because they're not just my objectives the council gave me, they apply to the whole team. One is infrastructure renewal, and that senior level funding is critical to that, so this is one such project, and we hope that those funding sources continue. And the other one is infrastructure is pretty critical to the town, and these are important roads that need to be addressed.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. In addition to the funded portion of the project, which was approximately $5 million, there's in our 2022 capital budget, we budgeted for some additional funds to actually rehabilitate the remainder of the road. So when we replace the water main, it's going to tear up half of the road essentially. So that is going to be replaced under a funding program. And at the same time, it would be good planning to plan for the replacement of the other half of the road. So there have been municipal funds identified to top the $5 million project up to $7.1 million project. So anything beyond the $5 million would have to be funded 100% at the town's cost, and the town's portions that for ineligible portions such as finishing the other half of the road will have to be funded through our budgeting process. So as part of any funding program, there's a transfer payment agreement that must be executed by mayor and council. So this report here authorizes the mayor and clerk to enter into that transfer payment agreement with the province and the feds to support the funding for this project. So we did apply on September 8th, 2021, and on April 11th, 2022, Mayor Eadie received an email indicating that we were successful in the grant, and on June 29th, we received a copy of the transfer payment agreement, and it's being brought to council tonight to, to execute that transfer payment agreement. And the project's anticipated to move into design by issuing an RFP for the design, and that design will be completed in the fall and early spring of 2023. And construction will take place 2023 and 24. So it's like essentially a 2-year construction project. It's a fairly large project. And I do highlight that with the challenges of COVID and the higher prices coming in on construction contracts, I'm sure we're going to have more discussions on the scope of the project and funding sources as the project evolves. So if there's any questions at this point, I could try to answer them.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor? Be carried. Thank you. The bylaw 60-2022 being a bylaw to enter into transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in the right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICIP, Green Stream Project be read a first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Revimo. Any further questions? Hearing none. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The bylaw 60-2022 being a bylaw to enter into a transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in the right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICIP Green Stream Project, be read a third time and be passed. Mover, please. Councillor Koulis, seconded by Councillor Hines. Last chance. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor? That be carried. Thank you. The Director Aston's report dated July the 5th, 2022 concerning Chief Building Official, Greater Madawaska, be received. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Koulis. Turn it over to Director Aston for the report.
Thank you, Mayor Eadie and Council. The town of Renfrew has been requested to provide some technical assistance to the Township of Greater Madawaska to provide additional chief building official support. And council are being asked to authorize the mayor and the CAO to prepare and execute an agreement for CBO services between Renfrew and Greater Madawaska. Again, this supports some of the objectives set out for the CAO, and I'll let Robert review those if he wishes.
Yeah, as mentioned earlier with McNabb Braeside, in this case, the objective was to specifically work with our partners with regard to land use planning and building, fire and IT. So I'll note that Greater Madawaska lost their manager of planning and their chief building official. So this agreement provides some temporary support on the chief building official, but they are also looking for some support potentially on land use planning, and we'll bring that forward to council at a later date. But I think this is a prime example about us having some technical staff and some capacity to be able to help out neighbors on a cost recovery basis with the good quality staff that we do have. And that should not take away from the duties of the chief building official in terms of issuing permits. I note that as of June 30th, the total was 45 permits for the town, and Greater Madawaska for that period, I think, has over 100. So of various types. But this is a great example of trying to achieve that objective of working with our partners to share technical staff and doing so collaboratively. So I think this is good news for the town.
Yep, thank you. I'll continue with the report. So from a financial perspective, the total hourly wage of the employee will be recovered for the services the CBO will provide to Greater Madawaska, as well as any expenses such as mileage. So we have terms in the agreements to recover those costs. If you can all remember, the Township of Greater Madawaska requested assistance for the provision of large and complex buildings, so with their hydro projects. It is on. Yeah, so we have been providing assistance on their projects. So we're just expanding essentially that capability or that that effort with Greater Madawaska. So the agreement that is formed will consider a number of items such as WSIB, employee costs, and various appointments and certifications that are required to comply with all the provisions of the Ontario Building Code. So they're listed in the report. I won't go through all of them. Again, the municipalities are being challenged to work together and to find efficiencies in a manner that reduces the long-term operating cost for the municipalities. So I think CAO Tremblay has spoken to that effort. This is a good example of how the different municipalities can work together to benefit from the expertise available in one municipality or the other. And the municipalities are committed to work through any issues as these relationships haven't been going on for a long time. So there's a bit of discovery in how we work together, and if there are any issues, which we haven't seen any issues rising at this point. We do note that from time to time it may cause the CBO to incur some overtime, to accommodate the various work schedules and what have you. But we're going to work through that with our staff as well as the CAOs as well. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this? No. The comment I would have is it is nice when we can work together with other municipalities. They are our neighbors, and when we can help them out as they've helped us out in the past, it's always good. So thank you very much. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. The bylaw 62-2022 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement for the provision of building inspection and plan examination services for the Township of Greater Madawaska be read a first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Koulis. Any further questions? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The bylaw 62-2022 being a bylaw to enter into an agreement for the provision of building inspection and plan examination services for the Township of Greater Madawaska be read a third time and be passed. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Revimo. Any further questions? There are none. Thank you. All in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. That the Environmental Engineering Armstrong report dated July 2022 concerning transition to provincial blue box individual producer responsibility be received. Mover, please. Revimo, seconded by Councillor Evans. Again, I guess I'll have to ask Director Aston to give this report.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Eadie and Council. This is somewhat of a bit of a complicated issue that the municipalities have been dealing with, but the province of Ontario has determined that the recycling programs, the Blue Box program for residential, should be transitioned to the producers, such that the producers would be responsible for setting up a Blue Box collection program and all the costs associated with it. So the province has been working through a transition phase and setting out legislation and regulations to guide the transition of the Blue Box program from the municipality running the programs to the producers running the programs. So the transition date for Renfrew is set for July 29th, 2023. So currently, we have budgeted approximately $275,000 for Blue Box programs to provide the collection and processing, and the town receives approximately $84,000 from the producers to compensate us for the cost of running that program. So when it comes to July 29th, 2023, the province will, fully transition these services over to the producers, and we will have zero responsibility for cost for residential Blue Box. Right now, the subsidies we get do not cover the collection of IC&I and like the downtown commercial cardboard, the blue boxes that we put out at businesses. The town has to pay those costs currently, and under the transition, we will continue to have to pay for those types of programs if the municipality chooses to have an IC&I collection program. So under the rules and the legislation, they say if there's an organization that can collect 66% of the recycled materials, then they can apply to run the program of this new Blue Box program that is going to be run by the producers. So in this case, Circular Materials Ontario, so CMO, has put forward a bid to be that provider of the services to take over these Blue Box programs. Now, because of the timing, the transition of July 29th, 2023 is coming up really fast, and I think the Circular Materials Ontario is determining that there's not enough time to set up their own programs, to buy all the trucks or arrange for their own trucks and set up all the staffing to run these new Blue Box programs. So they're approaching municipalities and asking us to fill out a survey on July 15th to determine are we going to, or are we interested as a town of Renfrew to continue to provide recycling services under our contract with our providers. So that would be our TES is our collection agency for Blue Box program, and Amterra are our processors. So they would like us to continue to provide that contract to TES to collect the recycled materials. But the real kick is that they would also like to dictate, the CMO would like to dictate the terms of the contracts that we're going to enter into with TES. So I know this is all getting a bit complicated, but our existing contract right now expires in July of 2023. So we have a contract with our current provider to provide that service. Now, if we were to extend the service, we're able to extend it for 1 year at a time for 2 years. So we could technically extend it to July 2025. CMO they're setting forth that they would like us to enter into agreements with them till January 2026. Well, our contracts don't currently have the provisions to be extended for that length of time. And if you think about it, the municipalities are told that their transition date is July 29th, 2023, at which time we would basically have no risk in providing Blue Box services because it would be run by the transition. But if the longer we stay involved, then we may have risks associated with contracts, renewals, contractor deliveries, and all the issues that we face when we're delivering contracts. So there has been some discussions with staff and CMO, and we've also discussed this with the Waste Management Committee, and we're recommending as staff that we answer the survey that no, we're not interested in extending our existing contracts to provide services to this transitioned organization of CMO. And what would happen when we say no, then CMO, the Circular Materials Ontario, would then contact our current contractors and try to negotiate a deal with the current contractors. Okay, so they would contact our TES and try to arrange for provision of that service. And they may or may not, this is only for the recycling collection part of it. So we also have an agreement with the processor, which is Mterra, and we're not sure if Circular Materials Ontario will use Mterra. But part of the terms of their contract is they want to have the ability to use our contractor and to haul the recycling to a location that's as far as 1 hour away, or 1 hour away from the Centroid of Renfrew. So currently our materials recycling facility is in Renfrew, and it's very efficient for our contractor to bring materials there. But if our contractor now had to drive 1 hour to go to a delivery facility and to unload, and it would take time to unload. So I think in the end, extending our contracts with this organization would only present risks to the municipality. If we were to extend services, we would like to do it under our current contract under the current terms, and not have anybody be able to dictate our renewal dates and our, so the CMO organization wants to, have us use our contractors, but their terms, they want to have the say of when the contracts get extended and things like that. It just presents a lot of risk. So at this point, staff and the Waste Management Committee are asking council to support, us answering no to the survey, that no, we're not interested in extending our contracts to provide service to Circular Materials Ontario. And then if we answer no, then they will likely contact our providers and try to make arrangements to provide service after July 29th, 2023, when our contracts expire.
Okay.
So
Any
it's
further
a
comments or
complicated issue.
Review.
We agree wholeheartedly with staff's recommendation. CMO is not in a position, I don't believe, to actively take on the large project that they thought they could, and are seeking to delay it. And with that, they wanted to control essentially our resources, because it would be our contract, set a series of terms. They included a copy of the contract, and I believe it was 50 pages, and probably half of it was strikeouts of language that might have been beneficial to the municipal corporations. So it's too big a risk for a group that's headquartered in Toronto, and trying to find the keys to the washroom, never mind run the recycling program for Ontario. So it's too big a risk for us. Thank you.
Anything else? Councillor Hines.
Just a question, when this transitions, however we go with it, are we in any way influential in what's being recycled, or?
Yes, so in the transition, there's two phases to the transition. The first phase is that they would collect the existing materials that are being collected, and they would try to maintain some consistency in those programs. The second phase of the program, which kicks in a couple years from the transition period, would then allow the producers to revamp the materials that they're collecting and how they're processed, and the programs could change dramatically without any municipal say in how that's done. It would be all set by the province. Now the big thing is, right now we do provide the recycling collection to the IC&I, the 219 stops. So under the transition, there's no obligation for them to provide that service to the IC&I sector, and the municipality may be required to make a decision that they either don't do IC&I collection, and that material might end up in our landfill, or alternatively, set up a program to collect the IC&I collections and have it brought to a recycling depot. So right now, what I find interesting is, the discussion so far is, how do we get this material out of our waste stream? How can we collect it efficiently? So the municipality has entered into agreements with McNabb Braeside. We have joint tenders with Arnprior, McNabb Braeside. We have very common programs. We have joint public education systems in place. All our calendars are coordinated. So so this transition is happening to be more efficient than we have been. So it's going to be interesting how these producers can set up a system, and how it'll be interesting to evaluate how efficient they are. And our big monitoring point is going to be our landfill site. Are we going to see more of an increase of recycled materials being brought to our landfill site? And all of our discussions through the municipal sector to the Ministry of Environment so far have been that we should monitor what's ending up in our landfill, and if there's recycled materials, then the municipality should be compensated for the loss of that space, because our current programs, take that material out of our landfills. So it's going to be an interesting. I don't think the whole process is run through its full path yet. Changes in government. There's as Circular Materials Ontario is having difficulty piecing all this together, they may mandate that municipalities continue their service for a length of time. But at this point, they're still moving with an optimistic transition date for Renfrew of July 29, 2023. So we're just facilitating their planning process by saying no, to allow them to contact our providers to try to arrange their own services with our recyclers.
Okay. Anything further? Hearing nothing. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The council approves the staff recommendation to not sign the master service agreement with Circular Materials to provide residents and facility recycling collection during Blue Block's transition from July 29th, 2023 until December 31st, 2025. Mover, please. Reeve Emo, second by Councillor Hines. Further questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. The County Council summary dated June 22nd be received. Mover, please. Reeve Emo, second by Councillor Sidney. Turn over to Reeve Emo for the report.
Thank you, and with your permission, I'll just go through all of them at the same time, Your Worship. What I can say to you is we met on June 29th. Just a couple of things of interest to you. We had 25 paramedics from 25 countries visiting Burnstown for an educational symposium, so that was very important for us, and we learned as much as we taught in that instance. The warden's been very active. She serves on the AMO Health Task Force, and she serves on the board with myself, so she was very active in June. And as you probably know by now, Craig Kelly is the new CAO clerk, effective September 1. We had a delegation from Parents Lifeline of Eastern Ontario, so they provide, it's a non-profit and provides family peer support for parents of children up to 25 who are facing mental health challenges. Steve Boland from Shaw Woods Outdoor Education Centre made a presentation. So they have approximately 40 volunteers, and they have had approximately 3,500 students each year through their through the Shaw Woods education program. And a little known fact, but Jeff Foss, because the warden is the chair of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, he chairs the Treasurers Group, and they met. And you can see the information that they discussed at their meeting. Second bullet point on page 3 talks about the inaugural meeting, and so the clerk's office at the county is reaching out to make sure that everyone is scheduled ahead of time, and the members are certified so that we can proceed with the inaugural meeting of County Council. So I think you'll hear more about that later on. The third bullet point, again, just suspended Section 6.1A of the procedure bylaw to allow hybrid meetings through until the end of the year. Delegated authority, of course, and then the last bullet point on page 3, Watson and Associates have been retained to provide a development charges background study with approximate cost of $40,000, and after some conversation, they agreed that we should add an extra 10 in to add in eligible services, the ambulance, municipal housing, and long-term care services. Karen Block from Scott, Rosine Black and Locke presented our financial statement for 2021. Of interest, she's not going to be able to complete the audit after this because of just members of her staff who have left and not having enough staff on on board to be able to complete it after 40 years. So there'll be an RFP going out early in the year for a new set of auditors. And there should be a meeting coming up soon for local municipal staff to meet with the county to talk about the salary grid and some of the changes that were adopted on May the 25th. And moving to community services, there are 5 homes operating with 24 full-time children, and 1 home in Renfrew, 3 in Pembroke, and a 5th one in Eganville. So these are homes, private homes, who operate a daycare program. Melissa Marquardt has accepted the position of Manager of Economic Development Services. She takes over for Alistair Baird. She's been with us for 17 years. The county made a presentation to the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission on June the 3rd with regards to the near-surface disposal facility. OVTA brought in tour operators from France, Mexico, Japan, United Kingdom, Netherlands, South Korea, and other places in Canada to visit Renfrew County from May 19th to May 24th. So what happens is they get toured through the county with presentations on various attractions, with the idea that the operators will then schedule tours in the future from their respective countries to Renfrew County. So that's been I think the last one was in 2019. So it happens usually every year, every 2 years. So this was the first one since COVID. OVTA has joined a program using 18 giant video screens on the 400 series highways from June 16th to 19th, and on the 401, 403, and 407. So that just gave messages about the county visiting it and living here. Starter company, 14 participants. Summer company, 5 participants. There's also a piece in here on the cedar leaf miner. It doesn't kill the trees, but it just defoliates them. And another bullet point on the May 21 windstorm that went through. Again, salvaging the white pine takes. You have to have it up off the ground within 2 months, otherwise it's not useful. And moving to the health committee, there is an agreement signed in Cobden to put in Renfrew County VTAC Clinical Assessment Center for people to attend. Some roofing at Boncher Manor. Moving over to operations, we deferred several projects from 2022 to a later year because of the increases in the capital budget. We weren't comfortable with it, and it was going to take some time to either refinance them or reduce the scope. And if you look at the 3rd bullet point, there are several projects that are ongoing. It just gives you an idea of the amount for each one of them. Moving to the last page in the County Council report, you'll notice 1 tandem truck and plow unit, $384,000 plus HST. And then a backhoe, $183. So I always like to include those. Moving then, Your Worship, to the Roma report. I was at Roma in Caledon, June 9 and 10. Just the first paragraph tells you that the conference this year generated a surplus of $59,000.
That's the next motion coming up.
Oh, okay, sorry. My apologies.
Okay. Any questions on the county report? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. The Revimo's report dated July 12, 2022 concerning Roma report to County Renfrew Council be received. Mover, please. Revimo, second by Councillor Evans. Turn over to Revimo for this report.
Thank you. My apology, and I noticed the misspelling. Chief Stacy Lorm met with us, and I apologize for not getting his name properly. The Roma virtual conference generated a surplus of $59,000. The revenue was down a bit. The delegations or delegates were down a bit as well. It seems everybody wants to get back to in-person conferences. The financial information, there's a reserve of approximately $349,000 in Roma. You see the 9 strategic objectives we put together. Housing strategy, we created a housing committee, and it will be, it cost about $32,000 to do that. Sent out 242 surveys to 444 municipalities. Or sorry, we received 242 back from 400 municipalities. So we're very pleased with that. 3 meetings of the group, and we'll have a report for AMO 2022. The opportunities paper, we've had 4 virtual meetings. There are 5 themes, which are digital connectivity, housing, access to service, workforce development, and growth opportunities. So again, there'll be an update at AMO 2022 in Ottawa. And across the province, each one of us takes a turn, or all of us talk about what issues are pressing at the council table. And so there's been some discussions on boundary expansions between neighboring municipalities, and provincial policy statements may force municipalities into seek out territory and not sharing services. So we're a little bit worried about some of the ongoing disputes that could heat up. Intensification, tighter and higher. It seems to be bleeding out into some of the rural municipalities that are around the larger urban ones. Short-term rentals and how to police them, service them, and not have them impact the negative, the more permanent residents. So we're sharing some bylaws on that. Staffing in area of land use planning, CBO and clerks, as well as machine operators, is not critical at this point, but it's tightening up. Equity and inclusiveness, working from home. So those are the conversations we had. The comms committee, you can see some of the metrics that we were following and using. And new from Ontario, MTO has announced a new pilot for electric assisted large quad bikes. And nobody had heard about this. It just suddenly showed up. And so I believe it's a 10-year, it's a 10-year pilot. And so I left the information for us. If you want to comment on it, it's there. Roma went to the FONOM to give the opportunities paper and to talk about housing, and in May they were at NOMA for the same reason. So we're going to be hosting a booth at AMO in Ottawa, and we'll be unveiling the housing paper in August at AMO as well, and sponsoring an information breakfast. And Roma's going to be hosting a booth at the IPM in September, which is Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County, I believe.
That's it? Okay. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. That Review's report dated July the 12th concerning AMO report to the County of Renfrew Council be received. Mover, please. Revimo, second by Councillor Sidney. Turn over to Revimo for the report.
Thank you. So you can see the financial information. A bit of a surplus of about $218,000 on the AMO conference. And increased reserves of about $1.4 million, and that's essentially through the federal program dollars we received. You can see the highlights from the caucus reports. They're pretty standard. Each one, most of them are similar, but I've just picked out the points from each one that was a little bit different. And next, you can see the executive director's report. It was right after the election, so we talked a lot about the budget coming forward, and then the housing was a key election issue, which wasn't a surprise. What did catch us a little bit by surprise was the Green Party's commitment to upload 50% of homelessness costs, and the Liberal and NDP commitments to end private long-term care. If they, if they are successful at some point in the future, or the present government follows that plan, that's going to play heck with local budgets, because then the only option is municipal long-term care, and we're not as keen on that as others would like us to be. Organizational matters, nothing there, and again, the 5 bullet points about AMO's advocacy, our purpose, and then COVID-19 has changed everything. You see the points we talked about. Social and justice policy and systematic racism. We're going to try to work some papers in on that. Rebuilding prosperity. Focus on sector unity. We've been hearing some struggles between neighboring municipalities. Organizational modernization and renewal. And membership report, 93.6% have paid their membership. And you can see the audit committee's report. I won't go through that with you because it's long. We had a reserve policy. The wind-up reserve essentially is if AMO closes down tomorrow, there's enough money to cover 6 months of operation to wind it up. This is essentially 3 pages of policy condensed down to 1 paragraph. MPAC was in to visit us, so they tell us that they have $38 billion in new assessment last year, with over $40 billion forecast for 2022. $3 trillion plus of valuation of property in Ontario. and they're working on a digital library of decisions and significant rulings for municipal staff. Our municipal staff are feeling outgunned whenever they go to the tribunals, or if there's any kind of assessment challenge. And they're working with Elections Ontario for the voting list. They process about 300,000 building permits in a year, and so they're very invested in e-permitting. We also then talked about national long-term care standards, and you'll see all the information we put together there. Mental health and addictions, you can see the 15 points that we stressed with the province. And on the bottom of page 7, it talks about the burden of mental health. Mental illness is 1.5 times higher than all cancers. About 4,000 Canadians die by suicide each year. 67,000 deaths per year are attributed to substance use in Canada, including tobacco and alcohol. And wait time for services in Ontario can be long, and especially for children and youth. And I take your attention back up to number 7 and number 8. Invest a portion of cannabis revenue and set a portion of LCBO revenue aside to support new treatment programs. So we asked, the only change is we asked them to identify how much money those two sectors generate, and that way we'll know, how much to ask for. Waste management and blue box on the next page. You'll note July 15th deadline, that I put that in to keep everybody aware of it. MEPCO is essentially OMERS. MEPCO is the group that looks after OMERS and offers advice. LAS update. LAS, of course, as you know, is a AMO service provider. It's a separate company. And I'll draw your attention down to the middle of it where it talks about they serve 389 municipalities. 88% of all Ontario municipalities participate in at least one LAS program or service. And the municipal buying group has 166 participating municipalities, 48 categories of goods, 177 vendors. And e-permitting, when we talked a little bit about that, they developed 19 recommendations, and the 5 core areas are data standards, software, operationalization of building departments, storage, that information as well, and then customer experience. So there is going to be more information coming forward. I think they have 14 pilot projects going with municipalities at this time. And then the housing update, again, just walking through some of the things that we had presented to the province, and the AMO conference is in Ottawa this year, August 14th to 17th. That's what I can report. That was 300 pages. I tried to bring it down to 11.
Any questions or comments on the report? Hearing none. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. That review AMO's report dated July the 12th, 2022 concerning Ontario Winter Games be received. Mover, please. Review AMO, second by Councillor Jamieson. Turn over to Review AMO.
Thank you, Your Worship. And as you're aware, the Ontario Winter Games will be held February 2nd to the 5th, Thursday to Sunday, February 9th to the 12th, Thursday to Sunday. Just a little bit of information on our chairs, and on the first and second page, just a real quick run through of what's going on in each chair's group. Of interest, volunteers, midway through the second page, we think the shifts will be about 4 hours at the minimum, and then 12 hours is the maximum. So you can sign up on our website, and it'll take you in it live, and it has the jobs listed, so you can pick what's of interest to you. We have 500 volunteers. We need 1,000, and we are confident we'll get there. Just going down through, there's nothing else that really jumps out. So on page 3, you'll see our venues, and you'll see the sports that are confirmed. So we have 23 sports with 3,000 plus participants. We actually have 25 sports. There's 2 more that just signed up, and we'll get that information out. Judo is a little iffy right now. It's likely going to be Deep River. We're just struggling a little bit with accommodations up there. One of the only limitation that we have that's causing us some struggles is that we're not allowed to transport the athletes more than 45 minutes from their venue back to their hotel. So given how spread out we are in Renfrew County, and how small some of our facility or hotels and motels are, that's causing us a little bit of a struggle, but it's not insurmountable. We announced a legacy project. So it's a sport fund for the underserved, and you can see the background. A number of years, there's been various community groups that have assisted younger folks get to become involved in sports. I benefited from Sport Renfrew. When I was 17, they gave me some funding to assist me to go off to football camp 2 years in a row, and then to basketball camp as well. I was not in a position to be able to afford that, nor were my parents. I was the oldest of 6, and there were 5 very hungry mouths behind me. So I was very fortunate to have that. And as we've gone around setting this up and looking at venues, we also found out that there's a number of venues in the county that aren't particularly accessible. And so we took a look at it, and our legacy project is going to be the 4 things, which are to increase participation in sports for all, and foster a lifelong love of sport, ensure that everyone has access, develop better, more accessible infrastructure, and then create a healthier, happier society. And so you can see the funding categories, 1, 2, and 3, which will be individuals, up to 21, sport clubs and programs, and then sport venues and infrastructure. And I'll take you to the next page, and it talks about how we're going to set this up. So we're working on it right now. So our immediate local initiatives we're looking at right now is our summer and fall logoed clothing line, which I said June 1st. It's coming very soon. We just approved all of the graphics and for the hats and T-shirts and coats and hoodies, some really sharp looking stuff. It'll be coming out, and it'll be an online shopping experience, and I'll share it with you as soon as I can. And community outreach, we're going to be sending an email out to various municipalities in the next little while, asking if we can be a delegation so we can give you a broader explanation of the Ontario Winter Games. Or a quick look at our budget, just so you can see, we expect, initially our budget was about $1.4 million. It's gone up to about 1.8, so we're working at that to get a harder number. Our revenue is pretty solid in terms of the province will give us up to $1.4 million, and anything beyond that we have to raise. So we're working on some ideas how to do that. And the completion and completed tasks is just to give you a sense of the kinds of things that we have to do. And then I'm taking you to our funding proposal, which is the introduction. So essentially it is, we're trying to building athletes and leaders for the future. And as you know, 3,500 athletes, 23 sporting groups or events, athletes from ages 11 to 20, and approximately 5,000 parents and spectators. And as you can see, 8 communities, 23 sports, roughly a $5 million impact, 17 venues, and we're going to need, it says 750 volunteers, but we're looking for more. And our need, so we're asking you to assist us if you can. A volunteer experience. We're looking to give our meals to our volunteers, some kits for costs. We'd like to give them toques and coats if possible, and a per diem for travel, and a post-event thank you party. So we have a figure that we're in mind for that. The Games Legacy Project, you can see the items there, and then the athlete experience. And with that, I can tell you that if you go to the last page, you'll see the Friends of the Games. All donations of $100 will be listed on our website. So you can go onto our website and donate. Anything over $20 will receive a tax receipt. And you can make your checks payable to the County of Renfrew, Renfrew County 2023 Legacy. So with that, thank you, Your Worship. That's what I'll present to you.
Any questions or comments on this report? Hearing none. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Is there any new or unfinished business? Hearing none? Okay. Next motion being that Renfrew Town Council convene in closed session pursuant to the following sections of Municipal Act 2001. Pursuant to Section 239(2)E of the Municipal Act 2001, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administration tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, more specifically as it relates to PEI mediation settlement. Pursuant to Section 239(2)E, Municipal Act 2001, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting municipality or municipality of local board, more specifically as it relates to a tenancy matter at 1 Innovation Drive. Mover, please. Rebimo, seconded by Councillor Koulis. All in favor? We are now in closed session. We'll take about a 5-minute recess, and Session, we'll ask Mr. Bowmer to read motions.
Thank you. So we did have a couple of directive motions that are arising from our previously held closed session. With council's indulgence, I'll simply read them and put it to the floor for debate and direction. That the CEO, Deputy Clerk, be authorized to sign the minutes of settlement between the Corporation of the Town of Renfrew and Boncher Excavating, Inc. and Thunderbolt Contracting, Inc. and 3782981 Cannon, Inc., doing business as AMS Enterprises.
Move it, please. Councillor Evans, second by Councillor Hines. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And we have a second motion that the CEO, Deputy Clerk, be authorized to sign the minutes of settlement between the Corporation of the Town of Renfrew, Boncher Excavating, Inc., Thunderbolt Contracting Limited, and 3782981 Cannon, Inc., doing business as AMS Enterprises, and JP2G Consultants, Inc.
Okay, move it, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Evans. Any further questions? Hearing none. All in favor? Okay.
Yeah, we can certainly, we'll do just a quick report out on the second one. We were in closed session to speak about a tenancy issue at our facility known as Renfrew Innovation Center, located at 1 Innovation Drive. Council has given staff direction on that matter, and we will be returning at a later date to council on some service delivery alternatives with respect to the operation of that facility.
Bylaw 63, 2022, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of Town of Renfrew, be read a first time and deemed to have been read a second time. Mover, please. Councillor Hines, second by Councillor Sidney. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Bylaw 63-2022, being a bylaw confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of Town of Renfrew, be read a third time and be passed. Mover, please. Councillor Jamison, second by Councillor Coulis. All in favor? It's carried. Do we now adjourn? It's 9:04 and a half.
20 seconds.